Hello everyone and welcome to another video. This week I'm going to be doing a giveaway for hitting 50 subscribers and I'll announce some of the details to that at the end. But I also wanted to kind of give you guys a regular video to go along with it, so I'm going to do a deck tech of my Lux deck. I went 4-0 at my locals this week. And I feel like the deck has definitely got some legs to it. Obviously not going to be top meta. I wouldn't take it to a big long event unless I was chasing the metal card, which I would love to get, but we don't have any of those big events nearby. But yeah, I'm going to do a Lux deck tech, and then at the end, if you stick around, I'll give the details on the giveaway. So just to start, Lux, her legend ability is when you play a spell that costs 5 or more, draw 1 card. Pretty simple. In blue-yellow, you're already kind of in a control mindset with a lot of access to good control pieces. And then a leader ability that just gives you card advantage for playing big spells means that you are fully locked into a pretty control-y game plan. And yeah, this is one of my favorite characters from the game. I always enjoyed playing her. The laser's so much fun. It's too bad the laser signature spell's not that great, but I am happy to be able to represent my main from League in Riftbound here. So that is our legend. Next up, we have our chosen champion. Chosen champion here is Lux Groundguard. She's a 4 energy, no power, 2 might character or champion with reaction, tap, and add 2 energy, only to use spells. So this is really good synergy here. You have to kind of rely on her not always sticking. Your opponents will recognize that she's a threat, just being able to give you so much energy over the course of a game. But if she does stick and the opponent doesn't have a good way of dealing with it, she will generate you a ton of value over the game, and being a 4 energy no might champion is a great place to be. So that is our champion. Moving on, let's do the battlefields. So these battlefields I think could use some refinement, but these are the ones that I went with right now. First we have Veiled Temple, which is mostly there because this is a an armory deck. So being able to untap your armory, and it's not something that a lot of other decks can take advantage of. This is just a great one. Also for context, I pretty much exclusively play best of 1. So while my deck list does have an official 40 cards, I kind of look at my sideboard as just a larger deck, and then when we do best of 1 sideboarding, we do the pre-boarding. So I kind of look at it as 48 cards that I have, where I just take out the worst 8 in the matchup. And so when it comes to battlefields, I'm not really planning on going first or second. So it means that a lot of my battlefields are just kind of, they need to be good for me and kind of limited on what I can do or what my opponent can do with them. There are a couple other options that I could probably go into. But for now, I'm just playing the ones here. So Veiled Temple, great with Armory. Next up, we have Trifarian Warcamp. Our main win condition is still the Armory with the recruits. That's our most consistent way of closing out the game. And Trifarian Warcamp is just really good with recruits, while also not giving a ton of value to our opponent. This one can bite you every once in a while if you have the opponent on particular breakpoints with some of our damage-based removal. But that usually doesn't end up coming up, especially because you can always just trade in an extra recruit or something like that to get through the thing. The final one I have is the Grand Plaza. I have the Texas one from the Worlds bundle, but what this one does is when you hold with 7 or more units, you win the game. And being a recruit-focused deck primarily, it's actually achievable, especially because we are running Time Warp, so I'll get to later in the video. So this is a very viable win con that the opponents will never get unless you're playing against a Victor player. This is almost always going to be a battlefield that has 0 text for your opponent and just a random I win the game on it for you. It doesn't always come up because holding with 7 units is pretty difficult, especially if you don't find your Time Warp. But if there's just a blank battlefield, it works fine for you. So those are the battlefields that I ran. I did get, no, actually, I don't think I got the Grand Plaza win. The one game during this Nexus night that Grand Plaza came up, I won with the standard way. I did use the Time Warp, but I already had both battlefields, so I was able to get to 8 without having to need it. And then Veiled Temple did come up quite a bit in the things. I don't remember if I got Trifarian War Camp in this week's videos. But those are my battlefields. Going to Rune Split just to get the rest of the boring stuff out of the way. I'm running 5 Order and 7 Mind Runes. Like I said, I have Time Warp in the deck, so you really need a lot of Mind Runes for that. You could definitely cut some number of the Time Warps and go down to 6/6 to kind of improve your variance. But I found that this one works out all right, and it's rare when you need too many of the yellow runes in a row. Imperial Decree on multiple turns in a row is the one chance where you might run out of yellow runes. But most of the time you are pinched more on blue than you are on yellow between Singularity, Time Warp, and Thousand Tail Watcher. So the 5/7 has been working for me. Now going into our removal, and I'm going to go through first the main deck stuff that I have, and then the sideboard afterwards. So main deck here, we have a single salvage. Sometimes you just use the draw, but having a game 1, especially because I do best of 1 option for things, I don't even have to guess around what they're doing. If I just have the first one in there, then as long as I find it, which Lux's leader ability gives you a whole lot of chances to draw into it, the ability to kill a gear can be really relevant. Almost every deck has at least one gear that you can kill, and if you really know that they don't have any gears, you just side this one out. Next up, we have a really important one for Lux in particular. Garbage Grabber, I find to be really important because we are a control deck. We run probably a few less threats than other decks do. And so you need to make sure that in the event that your opponent deals with all of your threats, you have a way of recycling them back. And then that one energy, because we're playing a lot of 5 costs, there'll be a lot of times where we're on like 7 runes, where we don't have a good way to spend out our last runes. And so the one to get extra card advantage to get us to the cards we need can be really important. So I'm running 2 of these. They're just really good at kind of helping churn through the deck and giving you the insurance that you'll never burn out or not have access to your threats by the end of the game. Next up, I'm running 2 Bellows Breath. Bellows Breath in this current meta, I think is probably just a 2 of. It is 1 damage is often not enough to clear stuff. There's not as many situations where you are clearing stuff with the 1 damage, and if you have to do it for 2 damage, especially with the amount of deflect that's in the meta, that's a whole lot of power that you're giving up for it. I'm still running 2 for some later synergies that I'll go over between like Imperial Decree and Thousand Tailed Watcher. So I want to still be able to see them if I want to, but a lot of times it feels a little bit awkward in hand, so I'm down to only 2 of those. Next up, we have Wages of Pain. This is really important at preventing your opponent from establishing their holds, initial holds. For example, if you get second versus a Vex deck or something like that, this is the most important card you can see to KO their 2-drop and give you that denial on the Vex on the board, because once she's on board, it's much harder to deal with. It's also great at kind of pairing up with a recruit or something like that, or a couple of recruits to clear out something, and then the gold that you get out of it is actually quite useful at either paying for a deflect cost later, or just allowing you to use your high power costs a lot more reasonably. I've only hidden it a couple times. Most of the time it's just a 3-cost deal 3, but hiding can help. If you were defending with bigger bodies, it would work better. But oftentimes you're just defending with a recruit, which is too easy to just push off the battlefield, and then you get no value out of the wages. So a lot of times it's just a 3-cost. Next up, we have just the 1-of Rocket Barrage. Just a really good flexible card. Get the kill a gear, just like we have a salvage, but also deal 4 to a unit in base, can prevent people from kind of hiding in base to try to wait out your removal. And this being one card that kind of fills both those roles is great. Definitely a kind of card that you could consider running 2 of these and no salvages in your main deck. But I do think that having 1 and 1 is pretty useful to help give you the flexibility on the costs. Next up, this is a very common one to see in Lux. We have the 3 of Falling Comet. This is pretty much exactly what the deck wants. It's no power cost so that you can keep up your runes. And then for 5 action speed, deal 6 to a unit in the battlefield. This almost never fails to KO because this beats like Vex plus Defend, or Vex plus Discipline, or On Guard, or something like that. So 6 is just a really good breakpoint for it. It clears a lot of things that are otherwise annoying to deal with, and at not costing you any power is also great. Also works really well with the Lux Crown Guard, allowing you to have it up for only 3 runes, allowing you to spend your stuff pretty nicely, and it always draws you a card, which is great. So definitely 3 of in the deck. The only other card that you could consider running in this slot would be Dragunder, which has the 1 yellow power cost, which isn't ideal, because usually 6 will do it. But that would be something, if you expect a meta where 6 isn't going to be enough, run the Drag Down instead. Next up, we have 2 Singularities. Because of the power cost, I'm only running 2 of these. They are still very strong blowout cards when you need them to be, and very important to have access to this card. Just the power cost makes it to where it's not a 3 of. But yeah. Next up, we have 3 Imperial Decree. Because we are running a kind of recruits-focused win condition, these things are just super strong here. If you have the opportunity to hold it up on defense, that can be really neat there, because your opponents aren't expecting that a 1-might recruit is going to be able to get them, and they may not use their removal ahead of time, forcing a spot where you get to draw a card, and they have to either use removal or lose their guy, making it really hard for them to kind of punch through a battlefield. Or just using it on an offense, you can chew through really big boards. Doesn't matter if Baron or Elder Dragon are hanging out on a battlefield, you play Imperial Decree, send in 1 recruit, send in 1 recruit, send in 1 recruit. It's just a very reliable way to clear boards. If it had any less power cost, it would be absolutely busted. That's the only thing keeping it in a fair spot. And it also being 5 means you get to draw off of Lux. So great card. And finally, for the main deck, I'm running 2 Unchecked Power. This is just your, you use all of your other stuff to try to get them low, let them stabilize a little bit, get a couple guys in battlefields, hoping that they're going to be able to win, and then you blow them out with the Unchecked Powers. I'm running 2 of these right now because they are cheaper than Ruination, that I currently have in the sideboard. So in mainboard, I'd like to have the cheaper ones, but I have access to Ruinations as well. I think it's important to have access to both, just because it makes it to where your opponent can't predict how they need to play around you without having some sort of way of peeking at your hand. And Unchecked Power kind of hits all the things that you need. It kills anything on the board. The only exception I've run into is a from the new XP Master Yi, playing out their signature, or their chosen champion, the big 12 might guy, with the +1 from their legend, is one of the few things that will survive this. The other thing that this will kill through Baron as well. So even if they have a 12 might guy and Baron, putting it up to 14, as soon as the Baron dies, the plus might will go away, and then they'll still have the 12 marked on them, and it'll kill them. So very few cards can actually dodge this. You just have to watch out for stuff like Wind Wall or any of the existing counter spells that exist in various decks in the meta. So that is my main removal and control stuff. Go into kind of the nuts and bolts kind of cards you have to play just to work in the game. And for that, we have our 6 2-drops. We have the Plundering Poro and the Soaring Scout. The other option that I would consider is the Honest Broker. I would say that pick your favorite ones from those 3 guys. I happen to like Soaring Scout quite a bit. Because it gets me that extra rune, which allows me to ramp into some of my bigger spells at an earlier point than my opponents are kind of prepared for it. And once you can get ahead on runes or stay at a pretty healthy rune count, that can be quite useful for the deck. So I like Soaring Scout because it's the permanent version of the way the other ones work, where it's just the gold. And then Plundering Poro is the other one I'm running right now. At the end of the day, these guys are, if you're not playing them on the first turn, you are probably just trying to sneak them in at any point that you can from that point on. Lux giving you a little bit extra energy for your spells means that you can sometimes sneak one of these in. And then it makes a good card to throw at your opponent when you have Imperial Decree up or something like that. These guys are very much interchangeable with each other. And you just need a certain number of them so that you can reliably get a couple points early and kind of make your opponent respect your ability to do that. Next cards I'll go over is kind of the win cons for the deck. So I've got a couple different categories for win conditions for the deck. First up being Ash. This card is very strong in Lux if you can get it set up. So the idea is you get these ashes out and you steal away their ability to kind of get around your removal and use the ability to, like all of your removal, to prevent them from holding, and then they just never get the card back. There are going to be times where your opponent is already on board and it's going to be hard to prevent the hold entirely. Even then, playing this out as just a 4-might body that lets you see what their hand is, lets you really plan out your hand. So at its worst, it is peek at your opponent's hand for a 4-might body, which is not a great baseline, but I feel like with the amount of removal, the 4-might might be enough to help push through, especially with some of our damage-based removal. And it kind of forces an answer out of our opponent's hand. Well, 2, because they have to deal with a 4-might body and they have to deal with missing that card for a bit. So really great card. At this point, now that I've played it, I would never not play the 3 of unless there's a better win condition, which at least right now I'm not thinking there is. Next up, like I've mentioned a couple times here, we have the 3 of Vanguard Armory. This is just our most efficient way of winning the game. It's just great. You get it on board and use your removal to make sure your opponent's not fast enough, and this will 100% take over the game if your opponents don't deal with it. And a lot of decks aren't respecting it the same way that they do Aurora, because Aurora is kind of, in some ways, gear removal immune. There's a lot of times where you can get away with just having one of these on the battlefield for a long time, generating a ton of value for you. If they get destroyed right away, then they're obviously not very great. You've invested a lot for just 3 recruits. But I do think that this is easily the most reliable way of just kind of a single card that gives you access to a win, because the rest of your deck can be removal at that point. Last card that is like straight win condition is the Thousand Tail Watcher. Essentially, once your opponent has kind of weaseled their way around some of your removal, it'll usually be in the form of having multiple guys on a battlefield, and they'll kind of push them all in, making it hard for your removal to work. And then if you don't find your unchecked powers or ruinations, the Thousand Tail Watcher can come in and he can wipe out multiple units on the field, especially when paired with some of your other removal. Even just playing Thousand Tail Watcher rested, and then pushing in with your removal spells can be a lot of value, in addition to being able to take a battlefield with Accelerate, and then if you can find the space, then you can also do your Time Warps to win the game, because the 7 is the kind of card that can clear a battlefield and then you Time Warp for the win. So great card. And then both Ash and Watcher work really well with Portal Rescue. Especially Ash in the mid game, you can really rip apart your opponent's hand here, allowing you to kind of keep your opponent from getting enough stuff down. And every time you take one of those cards from them, it makes it even harder for them to get back into the game through the holds. So I just find Portal Rescue, especially when I also get to use it with Thousand Tail Watcher, is just a great card. But yeah, this one is definitely one that probably could go to a 2 of without too much difficulty. But I am enjoying it at 3 of. Next up, we have our Time Warps. These ones are pretty self-explanatory. I'm running 3. I don't think you need to do 3. These are easily one of the cards that you can trim in sideboarding situations when you need to bring in other cards. But just having access to this means you will be able to steal wins that your opponents really weren't being able to plan for. You get an armory on the battlefield, and your opponent's like, okay, well, I've got like 3 or 4 turns to find a solution to this. And then you pull out a Time Warp, and then the game ends before they're ready for it. It's just a really big level up ability. If you draw more than one of them, that can really be hurtful, especially if your opponents have their game plan in place. Then drawing the second one of these is pretty bad. But if you just have to snap one of these off to just regain tempo, that is a viable option as well. But definitely, this is the card that's probably the easiest one to throw into the sideboard for those matchups. Now going into the actual dedicated sideboard list, we have the second Salvage. I think that between this and Rocket Barrage, I think that just getting the right number of them in your 48 is important. I've opted for 2 Salvage and 1 Rocket Barrage in my 48. Then we have 2 of the Ruinations. I like having 2 Ruinations, 2 Unchecked Powers, because I can do Unchecked Power in the main deck to where they're just more cheap, and then once my opponent knows to play around Unchecked Power, then I have Ruination from the sideboard that can clear out everything and really kind of punish them for trying to play around the Unchecked Power. Both are great, both drawing cards for Lux. Just a lot of utility out of the Ruination. Next up, I've got essentially 5 copies of Cold a Week, 2 in the actual Cold a Week, and 3 in Safety Inspector. These are mostly for Aurelia. That's the one deck that I have a lot of trouble with because they have a lot of counter spells which are good against me, and they have a really important to kill threat that I just need to be able to get around. So just having tons of ways to just force them to KO a guy that doesn't target, so it can't be not so fast. It can be, this one can be defined, but this one can't. You're just trying to find ways of getting removal that can't just be easily countered. So I'm running 5 copies of this one. I think the number is probably a little too much for Aurelia because I also have the Ruinations and the Unchecked Powers that can deal with Aurelia. But I was expecting at least a number of Aurelias in my meta, so I left them in there. But that is my 48. All right, for the giveaway, I'm going to be giving away 2 different cards. They'll go to the same person, so just one entry is, only one entry is going to be picked. So to enter, what you'll do is you'll comment in the comment section down below and make sure that you are, you like the video and that you are subscribed to the channel. And then this time next week, so it'll be next Monday, I'll announce a winner for the giveaway. So cards I'm giving away, first is Jinx. If you guys have been following my channel for a bit, you know I've been trying to make a Jinx deck work. The loss of Scrap Heap has hurt a lot for the deck, but I'm still going to be giving it some tries. So I'll be giving away one Alt-Art Jinx champion, and then my new Cope deck, Vi here. So one of each for the Alt-Arts of their champions here. And yeah, like I said, make sure you've commented, subscribed, liked the video, and I will announce the winner for next week. So I hope you guys are interested in the rest of the content that I put out, and you guys get an opportunity to kind of support the channel and maybe pick up some cards to go with it. So that is the giveaway, and I will see you guys in the next video and when I announce this next week. So thanks again, and bye.